So, hello and welcome to Who Corner to Corner podcast. My name is Jeff and I'm joined as always by my good friend Paul.
Yes, hi, that's me. Hello.
That is you. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good, mate, though. It's blooming freezing outside.
It's
literally
freezing,
like minus 3,000 and I have multiple layers about my torso. So, yeah, keep it warm.
My radiator is not working in the office, so I've had to beg
shame.
the office people for a little heater. So I'm
Yeah.
all right now. I'm warmed up and I can feel my fingers again.
Yeah.
But we are not on our own today, are we?
No, we are not, indeed.
We're not.
We have company.
We do. We're joined by two men who've made many Whovian fans happy the world over with their excellent figure range. So we're joined by Mr. Dewar and Mr. Ed Barnett-Ward from Character Options. Hello, both.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Very well. It's
How's
near
looking
Christmas,
very
I'm just
Christmassy?
feeling poor.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
And I'm feeling like Father Christmas.
You're semi-looking like him as well
the
there.
fulsomeness
It's a good
of
look.
my,
Yeah.
well, it's not quite as fulsome as it was. I did actually portray the great man himself at the weekend
Did
at
you?
my daughter's Christmas fair. So
How did it go? How was
Awesome,
that?
Ed. I didn't know you.
I think from a certain point of view, maybe I am Father Christmas. I mean, I make toys.
Well, yeah, but you know,
I always thought-
yeah.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Barnett-Ward is Father Christmas.
Have you ever seen Ed and Father Christmas in the same room together?
Never see us together. I always thought Buzz and Woody should worship me as a god as well. But
Yes, that seems reasonable to me. Yeah. So, guys, we've got a whole host of questions for
Oh,
you
my
both
goodness.
today.
Yes, we
so,
do.
we'll see how many we can get through before we run out of time. So, before we kind of get specifically into the figures and things, tell us how you both first discovered Doctor Who and what made you a fan.
Who wants to get? You go first, Ed. You go first.
okay, well, so my dad made the series. My dad was a television cameraman, and he started his career at the BBC, and he made pretty much all of Hartnell's, definitely all of Troughton's, and one of the last things he did at the BBC before moving to the southwest. I was brought up in Devon, and he moved down to switch sides from BBC to ITV to independent TV, but the last thing he did was the colour tests for the one of the last things he did was the colour tests for the opening titles of John Pertwee's.
Oh, wow. Okay, brilliant.
First colour titles. So I've got behind me is extensive many volumes of his memoirs, which are condensed down diaries, and in those he's got all of his recording dates and transmission dates and things.
Fantastic.
And so I know, I can watch an older episode and pretty much know which camera is his. So when the Cybermen break out in Tomb, I know that classic shot of them ripping through is his camera work.
That's great.
So yeah, when I was young, our scrap paper was always old scripts.
Was it?
They were just chucked out.
man.
And so I've probably doodled on old Doctor Who script, which now feels massively sacrilegious.
I know. What's that? Oh, it's just the back of the Evil of the Daleks or something.
Yeah.
Let's draw a house.
That's just the way it was.
Has it been nice?
But myself as a fan, I probably really got into Doctor Who when they did they did a retrospective in the 70s of at 6 o'clock on BBC Two.
Right.
They showed a different era, and that's how I sort of got my Who education. But Tom Baker was my Doctor, and I've loved the series ever since.
Yeah. I mean, that's a heck of a connection to the show, isn't it?
Yeah.
Your dad was a cameraman. That's awesome.
Ed, has it been nice watching the recent collection set of the Hartnell stories and seeing all the stuff that your dad was doing in HD?
Yeah, it's really funny because, well, my dad passed this year, so
right.
it's been quite hard. These connections, they're sort of, they are very personal, but it's so funny because when you go back to the anniversary when they did the Adventures in Time sort of creation of how the series came to be.
Yeah.
My dad sent me quite a hilarious essay about everything that they got wrong, and the detailing. It was so good, but one of his biggest bugbears is that it seems like the history of television always portrays the actual act of making television in the same way that film is made. They use the wrong terminology, so it's just things were happening in a way that just didn't really happen in TV. And also he had a lot to say about the inaccuracy of the cameras they were using as well, that they were the wrong cameras.
Oh, right.
They were not the cameras they had at Lime Grove.
Right.
But even he conceded that it would not be possible for them to get hold of the cameras that they had at Lime Grove, so they were using just that era cameras.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is
Big part of your life.
It's always good to see those classic episodes.
So that's brilliant. So Al, how about you? What was your discovery for Doctor Who?
I knew I should have gone first because Ed's is much more exciting.
How do you top that?
You saw it one day on TV, and
mine just really, it's just early memories. I mean, it's weird. Our family are kind of, so there was 4 kids, and my family is very firmly divided into my younger sister and my second eldest brother, who are very much take it or leave it with sci-fi. Not that bothered about it. And then there's my eldest brother and myself, who are just like, we're straight in there. So my earliest memories of Doctor Who were probably, I certainly saw some black and white stuff. A very vague memory. I remember watching Jon Pertwee, and I certainly remember seeing Jon Pertwee's final season. I just always liked it. I mean, I've said this before in a couple of places. There's something about the Pertwee era, and I don't think it's been captured since. And I don't know whether it was a combination of the way they shot it or the music or whatever. But for me as a kid, I found a lot of that Pertwee era quite unsettling. It really made you a little bit unsure of the world. In some ways, it has a very and even to this day, there's certain things that just a little note or whatever that just makes you feel a bit weird. And then and I'm kind of like Ed. Tom Baker was 100% my doctor, because when he came along, I remember to this day I was lying on the living room, because I grew up in Scotland, so we were in the house and the fire was on and TV was on in the corner, and I remember lying on the floor and Tom Baker regenerated, and I remember his first. So when he regenerated, it was like, oh, this is going to be a bit different. And then I remember his first story, Robot, and the fact that obviously it was a Jon Pertwee story repurposed. But I remember my mum saying, I'm not sure I like this guy, he's a bit weird. And I remember going, oh, it's bloody fantastic, not as that to my parents, but I was like, oh my God, he's so different. The whole, everything was brighter, a little bit more positive, a little bit fun and eccentric, and all that other kind of quite cool stuff that for me came with Tom Baker. And it kind of just, I think I certainly liked it, but from that moment on, I loved it. It was always that reassuring thing on a Saturday. Sports scene would finish and Doctor Who would come on.
Yeah.
So
it's just part of the TV landscape, wasn't it? And part of growing up, that it was always there, and it was always like a reassuring presence on TV.
Exactly. I've got two heroes, Doctor Who and Basil Brush.
There you go. Perfect. That's 70s Saturday night sorted, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Basil Brush.
That's what it's all about.
This day, nobody can tell me anything is wrong with Basil Brush, because
boom, boom. Absolutely.
Defend him to the end.
Brilliant. Love Basil Brush.
Yeah, I remember Basil Brush as well, yeah.
We should do a Basil Brush podcast. That's what we should do. Bring back those old episodes.
So here's the question. What happened to
the
original Basil Brush puppet? Because
what do you mean puppet? What are you talking about?
He just retired, didn't he?
The original
He was a fox. He was a real fox with a hand up his... Anyway, yes, go on.
Yeah, but I would love to see the original, because the new one, as much as I like, is not the same as the old one. I would love...
It's never the same. No.
I would love to know what happened and whether you can go and see that. But there you go. Yes, Basil Brush podcast with you.
So there's a story there, isn't there? Just diverging for a moment, but it's a bit like with old Doctor Who episodes and stuff in a way. Back then, there was probably no real kind of future thinking or thought that this stuff might be of interest to people later. So when that Basil puppet probably got a bit worn out, it probably just got junked, unfortunately.
It is. It probably got done several times, and it's one of the interesting things I find about the Daleks, because obviously every time we do a history of the Daleks set, I kind of dive into the general mistreatment of those props, given how kind of important they were on a recurring basis.
I know, yeah.
That's staggering.
Shocking.
My Mac is about to shut down. Speak to Ed, and I will be back in 2 minutes with a power
Go on in.
All right,
let's do that.
So, Ed,
it's funny, the Basil Brush thing, because again, I was just thinking, there's a reading back through, a lot of these things were created by behind the scenes BBC personnel.
Yeah.
Both Basil Brush and Paddington came from people who work behind camera, not regular creatives, and they sort of evolved into these much loved things. But when you sort of read about the early days of TV, it's a completely different landscape. It's not. Wasn't there was a much more sort of, I don't know, collegiate kind of people, everyone working together to create something without any much idea what it was that they were doing. They just tried so many ideas, and the philosophy sort of went all the way down to hiring. So my dad was didn't know what he wanted to do. He just knew that he wanted to leave Acton. He came from a very, very poor working class background. He used to joke that people would bully him and say, "I bet you've got newspapers on your table rather than a tablecloth." And he did have newspapers on his table rather than tablecloth, and didn't think anything of it. So when people kind of try to use that as a stick to beat him with, like, well, that's my life.
And so what?
So what? And but he knew he wanted to get out of Acton, and he did national service in the RAF. He was a radar technician, and that was really the stepping stone for the rest of his life, because he excelled there. Not having had the opportunity to go to university, and being pretty much failed by the school system, and moving on from it, he was taken on from the BBC because of that electrical engineering background, and they really wanted him for an engineer, but he wanted to be a cameraman, because his older brother, my Uncle Bill, was a lighting designer, lighting technician in movies, and used to take Dad on set when he was very young. So he talks about seeing Ingrid Bergman in Under Capricorn coming down this staircase. It's one of his earliest memories, and that being an inspiration. And seeing the cameraman on this beautiful mole dolly, which was the state-of-the-art dolly, which they had just brought over from Hollywood, tracking down with this shot, thinking that was the best thing ever. And so he actually blagged his way into the BBC.
Oh, did he?
Because he got
That's the best way.
He got a letter while he was still in the RAF, sort of asking him to, inviting him on for an interview. But the interview that he got wasn't in connection to that letter, and the interview he got actually failed really badly because it was with an engineer, and he wanted to be a cameraman, and the engineer had no interest in rubber stamping that. So he actually used the original letter to blag a second interview, assuming that the two departments wouldn't be connected.
Yeah,
and he was right.
And he got it right.
He got it right,
Brilliant.
and he got in. And yeah, he always, reading about it, they were always just trying new things, and that sort of creative hotbed is exactly what gave rise to this series that's been with us for well over half a century now.
It is, isn't it? It's working on very limited resources, very limited cash, and just using every ounce of creativity and what you have available to produce something which, you might think, well, that's okay, it'll do for this episode, for this series, or whatever. And yet, on the other side of the screen, watching as a kind of 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever, you're inspired by these things as a viewer, and they mean something. Those designs, and it doesn't. And again, I was saying before we came on that I was watching The Horns of Nymon this morning, which was. But when you look at it, you think, well, this is all done in the back of a fag packet at the tail end of the 70s, amid strikes and rising inflation and everything else. And yet there is something about those designs and the imagination which bled through onto the screen that just kind of keeps you hooked if you're a fan of this stuff. I always found myself really just excited by the designs and the craft, the sheer craft of Doctor Who, regardless how ropey some of it looks by modern standards.
People like Roger Murray Leach and some of the stuff that he just literally taking sets onto different levels rather than using the flat studio.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of Blake 7, but same thing. You walk down into the bridge, you walk up out of the bridge, you walk there.
Man,
he was just an absolute genius, that man. He was super.
That Liberator set with the hexagons and the different tiered level flooring, it's got so much depth and so much character to it, and colour, and it just exists. I totally bought into that when I was a kid, and I still love it so much today.
I think that's the stuff that, I mean, Ed will tell you this because I'm constantly told this, but and we'll get into it in more detail, but I'm a massive fan of asymmetry because not everything's symmetrical, and things look massively, and the Liberator set is a good example of.
Yeah.
See the top-down view of that set, the way it was laid out. It's massively all over the place, and I think that gives it interest. But
it works.
Obviously a lot of digital sculpting. I'll let Ed take over in a second because he'll say you're wrong. Sculpting is essentially mirroring left to right, and for me that doesn't always work. And Ed's very aware of that, so he always, it might be just a slight raised lip or whatever it is, but we quite often have a debate about, there's something, not quite right. Ed's awesome at doing that kind of stuff. He'll take something like the Jodie Whittaker scan that we originally got, and I think it's safe to say, but the scan was done in the US, and it wasn't the most flattering of scans. And if you ever see, which I'm not sure whether you'd be allowed to, but if you ever saw the sort of before and after of that scan and what produced from it, and it is just, it's just putting life into something because life is not symmetrical. So I think asymmetry and all my love of that stuff came from that.
And I was going to say, it's, you watch old episodes of Doctor Who or anything, and like you said, Paul, it's gaffer tape and fag packets and stuff. But at the time, you didn't know any different or any better. But now, even watching them now, it's about the story, isn't it? And you can kind of look past a wobbly set and that's obviously a rubber monster or whatever. When the story holds up, and they all do, And I think with kids today, if they were to watch old Who, they might laugh at it or think it looks bad. But you have to kind of change your mindset a little bit to it, don't you? And think, well, that's what it was like back then, and just kind of go with it to an extent.
I think that's the difficulty nowadays. Is without being blatant about it, that a lot of stuff is judged out with the social and historical context, and it's absolutely key. So there is a lot of Doctor Who that is, on the face of it, as you say, it's a good story, but it may be due to casting or makeup or choices. It's slightly uncomfortable to our modern eyes, but at the time was the norm, and that's not a justification. It's just a fact that
that's it. Yeah.
Well, it sort of is born of the fact that early TV was really theatrical production.
Yes,
very much so. Yeah,
and you can see it in Who, and
acting style was was a lot more sort of verbose. It was bigger.
Yeah. And I think that's a problem some people have when they watch older films or older Who, like you said, Ed. It is like theatre, just captured on multiple cameras, and it's completely different in the structure and the way it's done, and the way it's all evolved over the years is fascinating, and the kind of complexity that you get on stuff now. But yeah.
But you know what? I mean, that tends to give those stories a character of themselves, I think. I mean, a good example of this is Freya, my daughter, who sometimes does podcasts with us. She's been watching a few of the older episodes, and she always tells me that she finds them more scary and unsettling than a lot of stuff in the modern series. And I think a lot of I ask her, why is that? Why do you feel this way? Some sort of weird psych evaluation or something, because I'm obviously qualified for that, but she just says it just looks weird, so I just take that to mean everything, the lighting and the shots themselves, which are actually, when you look at them, really, really dynamic, given that these massive cameras didn't really move so much. So what guys like your dad managed to achieve wielding those big heavy things around in limited space is really quite extraordinary.
And also, I think from an acting point of view on those old episodes and films, again, like it's theatre, everything's done largely in one take, whereas now everything is comprised of
live.
Yeah, multiple
bring that
different.
Back.
It'd be
bring
really
back the
interesting.
Old techniques.
Yeah, because then also, the actors are working at it and actually delivering a scene in full rather than it being comprised of 50
edits.
Takes or edits and stuff.
And a Merry Christmas to all of you at home.
Boys and girls. Right, we should probably better get back on topic here, though, else we'll run out of time.
Yeah. So I've got a question for both of you. So tell us a little bit about your job roles at Character Options, and tell us briefly how you got into the toy business.
We should have probably started with that one, actually.
Yeah. I was thinking we'll put it out on one.
Yes, we've done half an hour of fluff.
Maybe I'll shift this bit back around.
My dad,
So, I'll go first on this one because Ed's not part of Character Options, albeit he's been part of my life now for nigh on 25, 27 years, isn't it? Something like
that's
that.
Beautiful.
So,
beautiful.
So I started I got into the toy industry. I left school. Went to university up in Aberdeen. Never go there. It's really cold.
It's too far away for me.
Too far away. And then I went to the US after I left college for about a year, and then sort of came back. And I trained in graphics originally, and my first job was in graphics. And
he's brilliant at drawing.
Yeah,
is he really? Yeah.
Brilliant. And I just basically thought, I really hate this, and I think the people I was working for said, he really hates this.
Was it kind of obvious then, was it?
Yeah, so I completely chanced my arm and applied to Hasbro for a job I was woefully underqualified for, and it just happened that they were looking they knew they'd get applications from young fools like me. So I ended up going there, and then I was originally in games and then sort of got more into the product design side as it went on. And then when I went to character, that was around 2001. And then we kind of got the Doctor Who thing in 2004, 5.
Yeah.
But that was really my background. I was originally graphics, but I'd always been very hands-on. I'd always built models. I'd always done stuff. So I've Ed says I'm brilliant at drawing, but I'm actually, I think I'm very good at doing sketches. I'm not particularly good at the sort of high-end, more detailed stuff. But that was really my way in. And then Ed, who doesn't work for us, but you know, he'll tell you. Well, on you go, Ed. No point in me.
Go on, Ed.
So I went to university when I left sixth form. It was a real toss-up whether I did an academic degree or whether I did an art degree, and I had a dreadful art foundation interview, which was with a real snob who told me that everything I loved had no value. So all of my portfolio was filled with graphic art, my interpretations of Judge Dredd and Batman and the rest. And he was like, "You're just copying." It's like, no, you don't get it. These are characters. This is my interpretation. Yeah, and he said, well, if I was to give you a huge amount of money now, what would you do? Would you go and make a film, or would you try and create the world's greatest painting? And I was like, I'd make a film.
Make a film. That's not even a question.
So I ended up going to university and I studied drama and film studies.
Yeah.
And I, with the intention of going into the film industry. But due to various unfortunate circumstances in my late teens, I hadn't learned to drive, and I very soon discovered after university that if you couldn't drive, you were totally stuffed with any possibility of getting work in the film industry.
Ed, amen to that. I know a number of camera guys who can't drive, or they live in London and think the world stops outside the M25, and I just think you can't do that kind of work and not be able to drive, or you can't do it, like, I should say successfully, that's not right, but you can't do it like easily or as a full-time job when you're limited like that.
I looked for another route in, so I fell back on my art skills and thought I'd go into special effects. I had a number of horrendous experiences on low-paid straight-to-video work, the most salubrious of which was a snooker video I did called Q Here for Laughs with John Go.
See what they did there.
Norman Wisdom, and half the cast of Police Academy.
Right.
Doing
I think I missed that, and I want to see that.
I need to see that now. Yeah. That must exist somewhere.
It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube. The whole thing is on YouTube.
Brilliant.
So then there was starting to be rumours that Star Wars was going to happen again. And so I wrote to a number of people at ILM and different places, including Nick Dubman, who headed up the Creature Shop.
Yeah.
And he wrote back to me saying, a really nice letter saying, love your passion, love everything you're saying, but you have no portfolio. You have nothing to show me that you're able to do the things that you say you can do. Yeah. And unless you get more commercial sculpting experience, you're just not gonna fly in this world. No one's gonna take a punt unless they can see you can do the things you say you can do. So I was like, well, how the hell am I gonna? What's commercial sculpting? I've no idea. I was in Golders Green at the time, signing on at Finchley Job Centre, and in those days, before computers, they had all the jobs were on little cards, and I was just doing the thing that you did when you signed on, trawling, seeing if there was anything suitable for me. And there's a little card saying "Wanted sculptors capable of working to a small scale," So I was like, okay, I'm going to do that.
Give it a go.
And that was with a company called Camelot Industrial Artists, CIA, which no longer exists. And I was hired as part of a bet, I discovered afterwards.
Part of a bet?
Part of a bet. So the person doing the interview they were two partners in the firm, and he bet his partner that the next person that walked through the door, if they had any minuscule amount of talent, he could turn into a sculptor. So I was hired on a £1 bet. It's like trading places all over again. I found out what they did. I knew that one of the things they did was a series of little figurines that Vivid Imaginations used to do. Monster wrestlers, Monsters in My Pocket.
Oh yeah,
I remember Monsters in My Pocket.
So I sculpted myself as a monster wrestler, a caricature of myself as a monster wrestler before I went to the interview, and that was all I had to take. So then that's it. I trained in traditional sculpting. I hadn't, like, loads of the people that I was with had done art degrees, so their knowledge of anatomy and everything was way ahead of mine at the time. But I trained traditionally. I did monster wrestlers, bubble bath bottles, and Camelot worked for Hasbro, so started doing work on things like Action Man.
I remember Action Man.
I ended up setting up a branch of Camelot in the US. I was there for a couple of years in Los Angeles. So that time I did things like Playmates Simpson figures, Lord of the Rings, WWF wrestlers, WWF as it was, now it's WWE, but WWF wrestlers for Jack Pacific, like The Rock and all those kinds of things. But I was thinking, am I wrong? I'm going crazy, Al. Was Character the Really Useful Games company before it was Character?
No.
Is that a separate? I'm fusing things in my befuddled
mind. You're not.
You're
not wrong in that a certain person we both know was running the Really Useful Games.
That's the connection, because
they got bought by Character.
Yeah, me working with them, because the first things I did was for Really Useful Games, and that brought me into Character. But I don't know. Honestly, you look at the toy industry. Hasbro's the grandfather of everyone. There's like Hasbro trains people and spits them out around the world, and then they take the people who they work with them. It tends to be so. All the majority of connections that I have that I do work for now are ex-Hasbro people. It's such a tragedy Stockley Park's not there anymore. It was such a brilliant hotbed of
talent,
creativity. But I mean, as you tell from talking about the subject, about who Al and I are very like-minded, simpatico when it comes to our popular culture. So
so how did you guys get together then? I mean,
sorry, I was just going to say, and I was going to say our aesthetic. I mean, it's one of the things that I've always, almost everyone in life who you meet who you commission or ask to do something. If you say you're not happy with it or you have a different viewpoint, you get pushback. But actually, Ed's probably the exception to that rule, because he'll listen to you and he'll understand it, and if he'll either rationalise why he thinks something should be that way, or he will just say, if that's the way you want it, I'll change it. And it's not done with this is not done with any bad grace. This is done with like, this is what I want. This is what I get. I mean, we did. I kid you not, was it 5 or 6 Colin Baker heads, and every single time it was a case of
not working.
But
just sat down and
I had to keep taking it off sculptors, and in the early days of Who.
Yeah.
I mean, things have changed. It's so funny. You chart the history of this line, 18 years, shows you the complete switch in the toy industry from being a physical prototype industry where everything is made practically and everything is approved practically, physical sculptures, hand sculpted, to digital, and going sort of, we go back to about 2008 or around then, I probably had 25 guys working for me at Design Works doing sculpting on lots of different lines, and each one of those sculptors, each one of those artists sees the world in a different way. When you get, sometimes you get a likeness, sometimes you get a character, and with the best will in the world, you know that sculptor is not capable of seeing it any other way than the way they see it. And so, and we had that with Colin. It's difficult because it sort of, again, at the time of the show when there wasn't a lot of production stills, beautiful resources like Magical History Tour, if you know that website. It's an amazing photo archive of Doctor Who, a repository of every image that has ever existed.
Brilliant.
Surpasses the BBC because they've only got, before the advent of digital, where everything can just go on a hard drive and you can get millions of images. They had limited resource, limited space. They couldn't store everything. You know, you asked for reference for something, and you'd be lucky to get 3 or 4 images.
Right.
Which, as we always say in the trade, any model's only as good as the reference you're able to provide for it. You can't make something look just like it looked on screen if you don't know.
And sorry, I'm just jumping in there, Ed.
Go for it.
Well, so it's weird because in the old days when Ed was doing these physical sculpts, one of the great things was you could put it in your hand and you could turn it this way and that, and you could look at it, and it's very strange how when something's in a digital medium, I find it much more easy to miss things because it's not something I'm spinning in my hand. I'm looking at renders and views and different things, and actually having something in hand and seeing it at the scale it was intended is a completely different thing. And it's what Ed and I always have this thing. It's like we used to always have to submit things for approval, and you're taking a very high. Well, Ed always used to take the most marvelous high resolution shots of the sculpts, but of course, if you blow something that's an inch high up to
whatever it is,
it's literally, in some cases, it's literally going to look like someone
life size
painted the head of a match with a face, because that looks shockingly bad. And it's like, well, it's not intended to be seen at that size. It's
going to be tiny.
It's to be in your hand at that size, and it's amazing how the brain works to sort of fill in detail.
That must make the
that's an old Hartnell sculpt. 15 millimeters they are across, so it's like that's it. Those when they were 15 mil wide, and when we were sculpting those, they were sculpted with pins,
Wow.
Tiny pins.
Literally. I'll show you my tools of the trade. If I've got it. Got my old box.
Ed rummages around on his desk looking for the things which he stored and wanted to show
us. I forget, it's radio. So
I can hear the pins. There we go. Look at that.
That's a number 13 Taranti Spike that I've had my entire career. It's 13.
I thought that was a number 13 as soon as I saw it, Ed. I thought, it's a number 13. That is, yeah.
That and the 18, they'll do you.
Yeah.
But the fine details, the wrinkles with a cocktail stick or a pig.
Yeah.
I love that it's so kind of, for such a big industry, and the way it's being made is with, like, with cocktail sticks
Still
and pins.
Comes back
and
to that. Yeah.
I'm a big Disney fan, and I was watching one of the kind of documentaries about it, and they talked about the origins of it all, and it was paper and pencil, and ink, and all of that we have now grew from someone drawing on paper, and I just think that is phenomenal. That and the same with the figures there, and it seems so kind of homemade and everyday in a way, but it's contributing to something so much massive.
Can I ask? Do you ever get the actors in? Are you just working from reference material? Do you scan their faces?
Ed and I, when scanning first took off, Ed and I did. We did have a couple of occasions. We had Ian McNeice, and we got to scan everybody really from David, sort of Matt Smith forward. I would say everything was scanned, and I think that's right in saying, Ed.
I've got another question actually. As fans of the show, as you both are, it must feel like a dream come true getting to work so closely, on the show and with the figures and everything.
There's absolutely no doubt that I have made some amazing memories doing this job. Some utterly surreal and beautiful experiences I've had. So when we did the Carrier Nights for the Shakespeare Code,
we
had an opportunity. They hadn't done any production photography, and I was like, we need to know what these creatures look like, because
we can't make a figure without that.
Witches.
And so they were like, all right, well, they're shooting. It's December. It's 2 weeks before Christmas. They're shooting in the Globe Theatre. Go down to the night shoot and get what you want.
Take some pictures. Eh?
So I went off down, and then I arrived, and everyone was really nice, but they were basically, I'm really sorry, the shooting schedule's completely upended. I'd arrived at like 11:30, and they said the Carrier Nights won't be available until about 4 a.m. So it's like, you can stay, and I was like, I will not be functioning tomorrow. I'll do an all-nighter tonight.
I will come back.
It's like, and I was like, oh well, just stay and watch a bit. So they were shooting the crowd reaction scenes from when they break out, and they did that, with effects. So they had one block of completely full audience, and then everyone moved around and slightly changed their costume, and then they worked their way round. So I go into the Globe, and they go, okay, go to the other side where you won't be seen, and sit down. There's a group of people over there. So I go, and the producers are all there, and then David comes into the arena, and he's doing he's filming for Doctor Who Confidential, and he came and sat next to me. So I spent an hour and a half chatting with him.
That's amazing,
and it was just brilliant. And so many other. Michelle Gomez, when we scanned her in a we got this at the hotel, and they said, oh yeah, you can have a conference room. We've got a conference room for you to do it. We go in, and it was a corridor with that had the thinnest table you could possibly imagine, and chairs everywhere. And we were like, oh god, is this even going to be possible? And she was so game. She was she was such a wonderful, just into the whole thing, and so lovely. And then John Hurt at the anniversary. He is an absolute hero, and he completely lived up to that.
Brilliant.
it was, I asked that classic question: are you excited to be an action figure? And he was like, I find that my interest in anything is directly proportional to the paycheck.
Brilliant response. I like that.
And it was like, as I'm not getting paid to be an action figure. But you know, I think being able to chat with him about aliens.
Yeah. I mean, that would just be awesome. Just going back to your experience at the Globe Theatre, I have to ask a question. Did you end up staying until 4 o'clock in the morning, or did you? You came back.
I stayed till about 1:30.
That's pretty good.
It was
it's good going.
So you know, several things. It was a framer came in, and it was her birthday on set, so she was overloaded with flowers and presents and like
cake,
all sorts of.
Yeah.
I saw. Okay, this was another time. The first time I met Matt, he hadn't actually filmed a frame of the show,
right?
And that was at Upper Boat Studios. It's kind of a weird. I mean, they don't do this when it was at Roath Lock.
Yeah,
that's a very traditional kind of studio environment. BBC Studios, you know, you're in a studio. Upper Boat is this weird industrial estate that they just kind of co-opted into being a studio. It was just big space that they got. And so you go there, and there are these sort of gloomy 80s, slightly ramshackle buildings, industrial estate buildings. And I pulled up in our car in a this part of it is just sort of empty offices, and Matt was rehearsing in this, and I just sat and watched him, and I thought instantly, he's going to be brilliant. He just had an energy about him, and he was again right from the minute. So I scanned Matt in a little prop store off the main prop storage area of the Upper Boat, which contained like iconic props from the last few years. The Doctor's hand was there in a bottle.
Oh, that must have been pretty cool.
It was all...
Ed, was that because we scanned? Oh yes, it would have been. Sorry, you're absolutely right. I was going to say because we scanned Matt again, but that was when he was with Louise Coleman, wasn't it? And that was at Roath Lock.
That's right. That was when it moved over to Roath Lock, and actually did him 3 times. The BBC got me into TV Centre because they do these promotional packages, which are literally just things that people can edit together who are doing a story on Doctor Who around the world. So tied in with that is the idents. So like the actors will be there going, "You're watching MBFE TV in Australia, and this is Doctor Who." Just these weird links that they have to do thousands of.
Like and subscribe to the Doctor Who YouTube channel.
And they wanted to get some interesting tech. So they wanted me to film me scanning him, even though actually there was no functional need for us to do that at that stage. It was just literally that they wanted to.
Just art.
And then they went into various toy shops and did vox pops with little kids saying, "Do you like the figure? And do you think does it really look like them?" and all that sort of thing. And all of that stuff was dumped to YouTube at one stage, but it's all gone now. Every now and again I go looking for it, but it's
not there.
It's not there.
So in a moment we'll talk about the Regeneration figure set, but just a quick question that came in from Gallifrey Base and Professor T on there. They asked if the production team has input on what figures you make, or if you guys pitch the ideas, and I suppose it must be quite collaborative because you need to find out what they're doing, and I guess you get kind of early access on stuff, but how does it all work, and what gets decided?
Well, it's sort of changed. I mean, right back at the beginning, 2005, we did have access to the two people on production, and they certainly gave us a steer in terms of which characters for that first sort of tranche of product, like the radio-controlled Dalek and the Slitheen and stuff like that. It tends to be a case, or it's evolved, and it works very efficiently. Most of the time, we'll get. I mean, most of the time, the BBC tend to be very, very good at storing and getting assets, be they digital or photography or whatever, or access for scanning. So you tend to have an idea just from the material you're provided ahead of each series, which are the primary characters anyway. So to a certain degree, that's already sort of not pre-decided, but it was slightly different in the early days, because and we've taken some flack over the years for Destroyed Cassandra. But
the empty frame.
No, I think people love that.
I think so. Yeah.
It can. I think in the early days it was a bit like shooting fish in a barrel, because we didn't really know who was going to resonate and who wasn't. So we were kind of trying to cover everything, and then laterally we kind of get much more of a steer, and also quite often we're doing stuff almost like it's been, and so you can you can sort of pick and choose. The Regeneration set is a case in point where that wasn't the case, where we actually did get access very early to stuff, which is quite unusual, but it was a testament to the fact that the minute Russell came on, Mr. Davis, I should say, but when Russell T. Davis came on board, it was an absolute testament, because it was literally like flipping back for me, like flipping back to 2005, because suddenly there was somebody there who was like, the only way we're going to make toys and good toys is retro. Yeah. Give them this, and it was like
you have to.
Like the doors opened again, and absolutely fantastic. Got great access, great reference, and I don't think they could have been more helpful. And as I've said before, everybody's invested in these things. They're not done in isolation. Toy company isn't doing their thing in isolation. Production's not doing their thing in isolation, because it's all, whether people like it or not, and it's all commercial at the end of the day.
Exactly.
To make money, and a lot of that money goes back into production. So it's a sort of self-sustaining system. So it's. I would say it started very much with a lot of access that diminished over the years. I think Ed and I scanned and got access to every single Doctor and every single assistant and talent from 2005, literally up until the Whittaker era, when literally stopped. I think we were given material, but we never got a huge amount of access to
we didn't direct it.
Props and materials.
Why do you think that was? Secrets for keeping things secret?
It did become very secretive, and understandably, you can understand why it becomes secret. The only thing I'd say is, on the flip side, again, there's a level of trust, and again, it's back to the Russell T. Davies pre-era and the current era, which is, it's in nobody's interest to leak information.
No.
I mean, a testament to that would be the Regeneration set, wouldn't it? Because you would have known way before the rest of us that David Tennant was going to be the Doctor, and you'd have to do all your, everything to get it signed off, to get it modelled, to get it built, to prototype, to
5 months ago,
construction. 5 months.
Yeah,
and
tell
nobody
us how the set came about.
That, So
Ed and I were, you're absolutely right. We knew. Way.
Jeff pulls out his two figures there, Dr. 13 and 14, waving them around. Sorry, Al, go on.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, so I get slightly, I think, in fairness, I think we had one leak once, And it wasn't even us. What happened was that the werewolf, I think, had appeared on a sales sheet, and through nobody's fault, it went out to
it does happen sometimes, doesn't it? You see it with Marvel stuff. I saw the other day on Twitter a cushion for the next Captain Marvel film had appeared in Brazil or something. So the new suits got revealed months early. How's a cushion?
It's often Lego sets, isn't it?
Lego sets as well, but then they're not always accurate to what actually happens in the film, are they? No. So you get excited about something, and then actually it doesn't happen at all. But or sometimes I don't know if you guys have ever had this, but there was quite an infamous Hulkbuster figure made for Infinity War with the Hulk coming out of it, and that never ended up happening in the film. So there's all these Funko Pops and giant figures of this thing that they changed their mind about at the last minute, and I bet the toy company were unhappy, to say the least. But
those kind of things can happen. I'm trying to think of stuff. Well, I mean, obviously, way back in the beginning, we sort of had our. I think we were, everybody was pleased as punch with Christopher Eccleston, Ninth Doctor figure came out.
Oh yeah.
Literally, he ended up on. The Jonathan Ross show, basically announced that he was leaving. And the headline the next day, I think in the Sun or the Daily Mirror was, toy company is going to have to scrap all this stuff. And it's like, no, we're not.
No, you're not.
Like, one, that's a new series that's coming up. And two, have you any idea how rare that stuff is?
Exactly. Yeah. Suddenly the price just rockets straight out there on the collector's market.
Prototypes. So it's the one.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the Regeneration set? Because I can see you've got yours behind you there, Ed, and I've had mine for a few days now. Thanks to Al, made a little film with them.
It's difficult to... from my point of view, it was an interesting process. Funnily enough, the actual figures, I would say, less so, because Ed's sculpting was absolutely superb as it was. Both figures were kind of... We wanted to kind of up the ante a little bit, so both figures, as hopefully people can see, have got a ton more detail in them. For me, the biggest issue was probably the packaging. We had very few assets to go on, and we were working for weeks and weeks and weeks on the packaging, just giving different concepts. We finally arrived at one.
There it is.
And
nice and simple.
We finally arrived at one and sort of submitted it, and the kind of the feedback was, I think I'm safe in saying the feedback was, it's a little bit sort of uninspiring, and weirdly that was kind of like a red rag to a bull to me. So I've got it on my phone somewhere, but I kind of literally, in the space of the weekend, I literally sat down with my sketchbook. I've still got it. In fact, I found it yesterday, and I literally drew that pack exactly as it has turned out. It's one of those things where you just go, actually, it's a good point, and I take that on board, and 100% I agree. Let's do something different, and completely. It got turned on its head, and
it's a lovely box, and that kind of. To mark that, transition from Jodie's Doctor to David's again, and to do something special with it. And I think in the press release about it, you kind of talked a little bit about that. And
it was just it's just little things like if you do something premium, you just look at what people do with premium boxes now, and it's things like. And it's funny, you don't see it until you get it in hand, and even in the photography it doesn't come across, but obviously the spot varnish that's on there versus the matte, and the beautifully reimagined logo that the brand team have.
The new logo.
The new old logo, I mean, God bless them. When I saw that,
I love the diamond logo. I've always been a big fan of it.
We went down to the studio, and they literally, I think they at the sort of presentation told the licensees they had a sort of 9-foot diamond logo, and I was, I was literally like,
beautiful.
If I could steal that,
I would.
I don't care. I'd just nick it.
Just have it hanging on the back.
Yeah, and it's weird. Design drives a certain Because obviously there's a certain deco 1920s feel to that logo because of the way it's designed. So actually it lends itself to a slightly more minimalist approach. But the aesthetic has to align with that slightly deco feel. You can't just start adding stuff because it then starts to feel like it's clashing. And that was what was wrong with the packaging at the initial bit. I don't think anybody was happy with it. So it wasn't a surprise when I got the feedback. And like I say, it was a valid point. But it was that thing that, because I love a challenge, it was that thing, that sort of feedback that kind of made, actually, we can do better than this, and we can...
fired you up a bit more,
And that's not a bad thing. That's not
not at all, no. So you've done, there's a first, I think, for you guys in the figures on the 14th Doctor, isn't there, with his upper arms, is that right?
No.
We're talking about Jeff.
So that they can do that.
Okay.
Well,
we're talking about the ball joint arms on the 10th Doctor that never materialised in the B&M set. But suddenly, and it was exactly for that reason. It was my cock up, because I basically these things were happening in parallel simultaneously, and I was like, right, we'll put the ball jointed 10th Doctor in the B&M set. No problem. And then at some point I had a conversation with our engineer and I went, sod the B&M set. We're going to put the ball joints on the new figure when it comes out. So the 14th Doctor's going to have the ball jointed arms. We left the text on the box. And in the press release, funnily enough.
I think I saw people talking about it on Twitter.
Imagine our consternation. No, it was just one of those things where, and in reality we could have done both. But as I say, we were trying to up the ante with this figure anyway. So yes, it is a first, and it's much, much nicer. But I think it's good to move on.
Small incremental changes, keep things lively, keep the energy fresh.
Also, it's a premium product, and
exactly.
Stuff. It's not that I'm not being negative, and people never, it's not budget. Well, it is of a sort. You can't get an action figure out there under. I mean, I saw some Star Wars action figures yesterday, and they're averaging between £25 and £30 now for a 6-inch.
It's crazy.
And our figures average between, like the premium ones even average between 12 and 14 a piece, and the M ones you're picking up for basically £7.50, something like that. It's an absolute bargain.
It is, it's fantastic, and this set is worth every penny for it, I think. I mean, the website crashed, didn't it, when the orders went up?
Yes.
And I think that kind of shows the popularity of it all, but also the interest and that desire to have something kind of special like that. And I remember being here at the office, trying for like 2 or 3 hours for why is the site not working?
Well, you did that. You keep refreshing the page, waiting for it to come up. Come on, I need it.
It's like trying to get concert
tickets to Glastonbury. I need my Doctor Who figures.
Yeah.
I think when it's kind of all. I mean, I think it's a great. I think it's a great sort of swan song for Jodie's character, because her costume never really changed drastically. I know she had the tuxedo and stuff.
I love that costume now. All the Doctors, echoes of
so
all the previous Doctors is fabulous.
Yeah, and Ed and I had fun, because I think I texted him on a Monday morning and said, we forgot the arms.
Oh no! I was going to say that must have been quite a challenging one to put together with it, because again, you're saying it's only a small figure and it's got to have a lot of detail into it. You've got to see the question marks on the jumper, the pattern, the weave on the scarf, and everything else,
and the
celery
as well.
It all hangs on the sculpting. By the way, we didn't get the arms. Ed had just forgotten to send them across, so they were with me by midday. I mean, it's an interesting one, because quite often what we do now is we do a high resolution scan and we give that to Ed, and then he will sort of. So we had the original figure, and Ed then worked from some of his original data as well, because he had all that from before. So
Mm-hmm. Would you rework any of the older figures with the new articulation? Would you go back to any of those and vamp them up a little bit?
It's
we happy to leave them as they are?
I never say never. I think I do have and it's a personal philosophy of mine, is that if ever we re-release a figure, I never try and make it the same as the version before. And sometimes that annoys people. But for me, something has an intrinsic value at the moment it's made, in that moment in time. And so I don't see, and I don't like the point in diminishing the value of somebody's collection because he has Davros Mark 1 from 2003 and we release Davros Mark 1 and we change all paint ops. For me, it differentiates it, and you know, it doesn't matter whether it's improved or lessened or whatever. But I don't like retreading old ground.
Well, it's a challenge, like you said earlier, isn't it? You know,
the honest answer to the arm thing is we would change it only if it was necessary. But these, again, a lot of them are for the B&M line, so they are a moment in time.
I've got some maybe quick fire questions here for you guys, so we'll run through some of these.
Go on then.
For a minute. So, what's been your biggest selling figure?
David Tennant.
Which one?
All
just
of
the
them.
standard. All of them, really.
All of them.
Okay.
1 million figures.
The David Tennant figure mark. The original David Tennant figure is 770,000 pieces or thereabouts.
Wow.
Yeah, what's the normal number that you make of a figure? Because the Regeneration set was 7,500, was it?
Yeah, it's changed it because we do stuff. So that has changed, and that's primarily because at mass retail, Tesco's and your Argoses and whatever, Doctor Who currently doesn't have a presence, and I'm sure that's going to change. But that means that in essence, it's kind of moved towards the collector part of the market rather than kids side of the market. And again, I'm 100% sure that's going to change going forward into the
I hope so.
series, and I hope so as well. But so that's meant that the volumes made have sort of not dropped, but they're, you know, the idea is to buy in and sell out. You don't want stuff left on shelf. So somewhere I would say between 7 and 12 is about normal currently.
And in the entire run of a figure, right?
Yeah,
12,000 units.
Yes, in terms of a production run. And then, but classically, we've had, 36,000 pieces go out in one production run, and then another one. But it varies year to year, and it varies with what the market's doing. And I think that's one of the things people they're always like, oh, this isn't selling as well, and there's a reason that's not. Everybody. It's back to your thing on social media.
Everybody's an expert.
Everybody's an expert. Everybody's got a platform they can spout on with authority, and in many cases they don't know how modern retail and production things work. So the answer is, on any given day, something is more popular, less popular. There is retail space for it. There isn't retail space for it. It's in the zeitgeist of the popular culture. It's not, So it varies, and it goes up and down.
Right.
It's like the radio-controlled Dalek. That was a massive item for us, but radio control in terms of these days is virtually
tiny.
Yeah.
Right, I've got a couple more questions here. So we asked people on Twitter and Facebook to send in some questions for you guys.
My goodness. Just before you do that, Jeff, let me just say, because we do this before we do any podcasts with guests or without guests, and we do generally get quite a healthy number of responses, people firing in a few questions. But the response we got to you guys going out there was just unreal. On all our socials, we have lists. So apologies, people out there, we couldn't possibly spend the next 48 hours going through every single one of those questions.
I did have a look. I did have a look at the questions. Yeah. I was looking at questions, and I had to say it's like one of those things. Like if each question is, are we going to get this character?
I know.
Are we going to get that character?
Is this going to happen? What about this one?
It's like that. The answer is going to be the same to that question. It's like, it's like maybe.
It is absolutely. I would say unfortunately, gents, I'm slightly running out of time, but I think we can do a massive amount of quick fire questions if that's what you want to do.
All right,
let's go for it.
So some of these might be, are we going to get this? Are we going to get that? But we could just get a quick answer.
We'll mix them up.
So people really want to see a Fugitive Doctor and a Sasha Master figure. Any chance of those?
Neither of those on the cards at the moment. I receive on a daily basis pictures of the Jodie figure with Sacha Dhawan's head planted on the top of it.
Cut and shunt.
Cut and shot, literally. No, Fugitive Doctor. Oh my God, I would want to. If there was any chance at all. And I've said this before. I've got a wish list. Yes, I would 100% do a Jo Martin Doctor, because I think she owned that part within 30 seconds of being on camera.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Any chance of a Weeping Angel 13th Doctor?
Oh, there's a face.
You're
it's not
thinking
impossible, because the head may fit on the ball joint of the angel's body, although it would be. I'm going to say maybe on that. I'm going to say maybe on that. I don't know. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'd be out for that one. All New Doctor Who Book Club on Twitter asks if there might be a Clara Memorial TARDIS, with the flowers on.
Gosh, yeah, no, that's come up a few times.
Al doesn't remember it. We actually did one as a prototype.
Did you?
I know where it is as well.
We did it. We did do it one as a prototype, but
yeah.
It would be horrendously expensive just because of the spray ops involved.
Yeah.
But again, never say never.
Yeah.
No, that's it. It must be a difficult one, actually, when you've got you've got quite a vast commercial market, or a decent sized commercial market, but then there's a possibility of the collector's market as well, which is more niche, fewer, a lower volume, but perhaps higher value, and more longer lasting, perhaps. Weird one for a business, I suppose.
Well, the collectors,
designing where you pitch.
Collectors have 100% kept the line going. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I say thank you at the end of the video reveals that I do, and I genuinely mean that. I mean, we're not going to make everyone happy, and some people are going to disagree with what we do. 100%, they've kept that line going.
Yeah,
but I think it's also quite a testament to how invested people are in these, in the figures and the models. That they really want something to happen, to be. They want their favourite character from the show to have on their little bookshelves and that, and just go on and collecting and adding to their collections and building them up, and just. They just want more of it.
They're
Which is
little
quite astonishing,
aren't they? I mean, they're little. They're a symbolic representation of your love of the.
Yeah, a little bit of ownership of it, and you sort of act it out.
Ed and I know people now that were kids when they started collecting Doctor Who.
Yeah,
and not only are they now kept with it, but they've gone back into classic Doctor Who. And I always think it's a bit like Star Trek and all these other places where one feeds into the other, people getting into, with the next era of Doctor Who with Ncuti, it's going to be amazing. Kids are going to massively get into that, and then they're going to get a bit older, and then they're going to go, I might go back and watch some of the older Doctors, and then they're going it's a classic series.
And then it just,
well, that's one of the beauties of the show, isn't it? A lot of stuff comes out, and it's a couple of years on screen, and then that's it. Doctor Who hopefully keeps going, but it's got all of that.
Well, that's why we get gunned occasionally for our choices, but it's a 50-year back catalogue. In fact, it's nearly a 60-year back catalogue. There's a lot still to do, but it's not all doable all at once. So I always say never say never. Next question, please.
Okay, Jackson Temporalson says, what do you both think of the figure photography that people do?
Ooh.
I'll be honest, I don't get a lot of time to look at it.
You're busy creating stuff for them to photograph.
I kind of do. And I think it's utterly amazing.
There's some great stuff out there.
I have seen some stuff that's amazing, but to be honest, I'm really biased here. But Ed used to send me the most insane photography in the world. I'd be like, "Can I get turnaround shots of Novice Haim?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, no problem."
Oh, yeah.
So I'd get 6 turnaround shots, and then I'd get another 24 shots of Novice Haim with a M16 machine gun, basically mowing down Cybermen. And I'm like, Ed.
That'll be why I'm
yesterday, and I've got
24. I did it. I did it, and I would always, when we had new ranges, new sets, because I'd like to do little vignettes and with them together.
I've still got photographs of Mickey Smith with a Reaper gun standing on top of a heap.
The pile of Cybermen. Yeah, there you go.
See, this is the thing, right? Because we don't grow up. You know, first we start as kids playing with the toys, then we get to design and build and make and sell the toys, but we still play with the toys even
and then
at that point.
You take photographs to justify playing with them. That's the way it goes.
Well,
I think
I've sort of said at some point, I don't know. Any publishing houses out there interested? I'd do a book. Because I've got.
Oh, you should totally do a book.
I've got 3 terabytes of photographs.
Wow. Actually, do you know what? That would be really interesting. Was there was there a poster made, or there's a graphic online of all the figures that you've done? You know, across the eras and everything.
There was no poster.
And a book. I've seen someone's put something together then. But a book that kind of detailed everything, and that would be really good.
I'm laughing at that's no poster thing, because actually it was Ed that put the poster together.
Oh, was it?
And
yes, that's we don't talk
found
about,
its way online.
And I literally.
What poster? We never sanctioned
All right,
a poster.
now I'll tell you this story. Right. So when we did the McNeese figure, I produced a YouTube video of how we made the McNeese figure, the story of producing the McNeese figure, and obviously with any bit of promotional material we do, I have to run it by. I'll run it by Al. I wouldn't do it in isolation. So if you go to my Affable page on Facebook, you'll see behind the scenes things of the sculpts that I do, and I do glory renders that make them look like photographs and stuff. But so I did this video, and the last shot I wanted to put it in context. So it's the shot of the McNeese figure, and it pulls out to all the figures that we did so far. The big problem with that is that being the person I am in the position I am, I don't always necessarily know what's out there. I just know what I've done. So I put everything on that image, absolutely everything that we'd done, and I sent it to Al, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it's great. Fine, go ahead, post it."
Hadn't watched to the end.
He hadn't stayed right to the end.
To the post-credits
scene. That final image, and it had 10,000 views in an hour, and and by lunchtime that day, people had taken it, because I did it in full bloody HD,
high-res, 4K, everything.
And those images still haunt me. They still, to this day, haunt me. We've had the Tam O'Shanter Tom, but there's a whole load of other things that either hadn't come out or were just prototypes that will never come out.
Honest mistake.
And I still get beaten over the head with that.
Not by me, you don't. Not by me. Next question.
I was very kind.
Next question.
I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed.
Ed, it was 10 years ago. Get over it.
No, I can't.
Move on.
I'm still suffering the trauma. I paid so much in counselling. I can't get rid of it. Oh.
So, Nathan, who's Caffeinated Chap on Twitter, asks if there might be any future TARDIS interior playsets.
God, again, never say never. They're hugely expensive to make. We did the original, which I still absolutely love. I think it was brilliant. We did a Matt Smith one. I think it's all tied to the program and the success and awareness and retail thereof. You know, successful toy lines just exponentially grow these things. So are we going to do one in isolation? No. Are we ever going to do classic consoles? No. But never say. I know. I'm just being honest. No.
No, it's good. It's good.
Have to build your own Apple Weetabix packet. Sorry, Jeff, go on.
Yeah. Callum Sweeting on Facebook asks if the history of the Daleks range will continue and will it cover the modern series?
Yes, it will. It will, and it will also have some corrective measures. Well, our original Dalek proportions were...
Ed's eyebrows are going there. He knows.
Well, the original... the original Dalek we produced in 2005, the proportions were absolutely all over the shop. There was a confusion. We didn't realise that the geometry of the new Dalek was exactly the same as the geometry of the old one. Had we known that, we'd probably got it right, but we massively screwed it up. So the 2005 Dalek has a weird, massive, out of proportion, wrong angles, wrong geometry base. That was then corrected. And a brand new Dalek was made. So the answer. So quick answer to the question: yes, 100%. It's going to keep going into the new series. But
I'd love to see one of the
old wrong proportioned one. We will now have the new correct
set.
I'd love to see the Junkyard Dalek and that black version of that. As well.
From
Resolution. That thing was a beast. But this is a great question from.
That was a drone. I'm sorry you get pedantic.
True, it was. Yeah.
Good point. It's got you there, Jeff. He had you.
Still would make
a good set.
Daleks actually turned up to make the point that they weren't Daleks. So
they did. Just to obliterate them totally. Yeah. I do like those Dalek sets. I think they are really, really special.
They are really good. Yeah.
And I just wish I'd always managed to get my hands on one. My B&M doesn't do them at all, or if they do, whenever I go there.
There's another million questions about why don't you sort out B&M?
Sorry, let's not get into that one. Yeah.
On B&M's plus side, they've started to move online, and I think as of next year, you'll find that almost all the Doctor Who stuff will be available online. Hopefully, the era of the scalper will be over.
Yes,
I think B&M are aware that there's issues going on there with.
Yeah, now they'll just have a bot to buy them all.
Yeah. Well, I do like their socials. Actually, they do seem to be reasonably good fans of the series.
They do some good stuff on there.
They are.
Okay, this question is from Ali Hoswell on Facebook. Will we ever get a Jackie Tyler figure?
Oh, is that another never say never?
I was thinking.
She's not. I've been asked this a lot. The honest answer is not likely, I would say, given all the other options and primary companions that we have to hopefully, potentially try and by hook or by crook get out there. Would Jackie be in that mix? Not in my primary.
Maybe for collectors,
again, it's probably quite a niche one again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Presumably, you must do quite a fair bit of market research to get a kind of sounding of what the market is kind of hungry for or might entertain.
Well, I think Ed and I are both on forums, and we keep a relatively low profile, but we're not oblivious to what people are asking for. At the same time, we are very much, because we don't do many. Especially for B&M, as I say, it's a budget line, because we're not creating full brand new figures, just because of the sheer cost of doing that. We have to pick and choose. Yeah, we've got a bank, and it's a big, fabulous bank of bodies and stuff we can adjust and redo stuff on, but you're still limited in some ways. So. There's
only so many hours in a day, and so much capacity.
And Doctor Who's not Ed's full-time job, and it's not my full-time job. It's a very small bit of what I do on a daily basis. And that's not to, people might be surprised about that, but it's just a fact.
Well, no.
And back to the original thing of, are you both massive Doctor Who fans? 100% I am, but it's my job. And at the time we're doing a lot of this stuff, both Ed and I are pouring our heart and soul into it. And sometimes at the end of that process, you're knackered. So when people sort of say, "Oh, what's your favourite figure?" It's like, "Oh God, they all take so bloody long, and they all." we kind of every time we do one of these, a little bit of our soul gets taken away. So
takes with it. Yeah,
I think Ed and I are both kind of like, Doctor Who. It's not to say we're not enthusiastic about it. We absolutely are.
But no, you are very
realistic about it as well.
I know I think it's it can't be understated. It's the second largest licensed figure range in history, and we got to like 200 figures way faster than Star Wars did.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. People don't realise that the sheer size of the Doctor Who action figure line, and
it's massive.
Given what we do in terms of just being creative, and I bounce everything off Ed and he comes back with counter suggestions and stuff, but I mean, by hook or by crook, I mean, I think it's safe to say about 250, 300 of those were full original figures, and that extra 100, 120 or whatever we've done it's just from just being super creative with it.
And I love the dark coat version of the 13th Doctor. That must have been a win for you guys, like an extra figure with just a new paint job on it like that.
It was nice. That inverted palette I actually liked better than her original one, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it looks really cool. Yeah,
I would have liked to have seen her costume evolve. I know she had the tuxedo and there were variants of her costume, but unlike, I think, with the exception probably of the Eccleston Doctor, but even he had the changing jumpers.
Different T-shirt now and then.
To episode, but she seems like one of the ones where the sort of colour palette and almost everything was set fairly rigidly, and it would be nice to see
it didn't change a huge
we had the Chinese style thing in Legend of the Sea Devils,
so
there was that.
That was cool.
And also in the last story there, quite a few changes.
That's what I mean. It's like the
I know what you mean.
Specific tuxedo in this, rather than Tom Baker 7 years and he had X, and given that she did 3 series, but they were spread over 6 years. Coming back each season, I think it would have been nice to see a bit of evolution change rather than just
So can you guys tease anything else that you're working on in the near future? Anything you can share with us? Ed's
what are you reaching for, Ed?
Oh, what was that? That was so quick.
Who can say what?
Well, you could, Ed. You could say.
Yes.
Ooh.
We're working on History of the Daleks, set number 14.
That's exciting.
Actually, all I'll say is the B&M offering for next year, I think will... this year's one, I think, met with a little bit of a... partly because due to some very particular circumstances, we had a massive switch around and we had to do some stuff really fast, and that line came together fast, but it was perhaps, admittedly, it was perhaps less creative than it has been in the past. I would say that...
right.
I'm not giving anything away. All I'm saying is I think if it happens, there'll be some... I think people will be really quite... And nothing's kicked off yet, but if it happens, I think people will be very excited about next year's B&M line. Ooh. And we've thrown a couple of specials for B&M to choose either one or all of them as well. So those are in there as options. And that's re-releases of some figures that people have wanted re-released for a while.
Okay, well, that sounds very exciting.
Cryptic,
hopefully that will please our listeners. So, Al, I know you have to go in a minute, so I think one more question.
Go
How's the 15th Doctor figure coming along?
Very well. Well, it's not coming along at all at the moment because we haven't scanned Shooter yet or been given any scan data. But if you're asking, is there going to be one? 100% there will be.
So, have you seen the costume?
No, we haven't seen.
Okay.
That's what he was getting at. Oh, Jeff, that's a bit sneaky for you, mate.
Gotta watch it, guys. What's the Sonic look like? What's the Sonic look like? That's the other question.
Describe it to me.
Ninja-style questioning technique.
It looks like
to be honest, do you know what? All I've seen is the bit in the trailer where he's clearly wearing
Tennant's thing,
white shirt and tie. But I thought it was a fabulous little second intro to his Doctor.
Yeah,
they
very exciting.
Do these little teasers, don't they? And we hang on it. What the hell is going on here?
Yeah,
it's great buzz. It's great buzz about it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of anything I can let you know as a... I have one little exclusive thing I can let you have.
Okay.
Yes. Tensor hooks.
So people will have known for quite a while that the Emperor Davros figure, we had lost the tooling, which is why we could never re-release it. We found the tooling.
Oh, wow. Excellent.
Exclusive. We have the tooling of the Emperor Davros. It's complete. So when or if that will ever be released, but there's a little exclusive for you. You can have that.
Where did you find him?
Emperor Davros is alive and well and living in the tool shed.
Yay!
Or it's a tool storage facility somewhere.
Was it a complete chance that you found him?
So we're good.
Was it a complete chance that he got found?
We've actually been doing a audit of all our tooling, redundant across the board on absolutely everything, and it's my engineer who works on Doctor Who, and she knows how pissed off I was when it came to light that this had been lost. Because I was like, well, we can't make that figure again without this, and it's the primary sort of rotocast bottom section. I was like, we can't make that, and that's bloody annoying, and all the rest of it, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So she was actually the one that came to me about 2 months ago and sort of said, good news. And I was like, what's that? And she goes, we found all the Davros tooling. So.
Awesome.
It's almost like finding...
very happy. It's like a missing episode.
Exactly what I was going to say. So now they have their own legends.
We do get annoying stuff though that turns up. Like there's been a thing going on at the moment about an Emperor Dalek figure that somebody's been touting on eBay and sort of saying it's ours, and I'm like, it's not bloody ours, and I've never seen the damn thing before. and you can say that, and people are like,
3D printing
he's just saying that because it is his, and I'm like, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. Like, honestly, people, it's not ours. I don't know. It's lovely.
It's not official.
It's lovely, but it's not ours. So crack on.
On that brilliant exclusive, we'll say thank you very much for talking with us. It's been brilliant, and like you said earlier, Paul, we could probably have talked for hours.
Well, we've done nearly 2 hours.
Ed and I will gladly do this again, or you can speak to either of us separately. Ed on his own is fabulous. I mean, if you're talking about the sculpting and stuff, then and not just on Doctor Who. I mean, he's worked on a shed load of stuff, Star Wars.
Yeah, no, I think you've both got loads to tell. So we'll do that. Perhaps we'll tie it in with the next B&M wave when it comes out.
Gentlemen, I'm going to leave you if you don't mind, because I do.
No, that's fine. You've got a meeting to get to.
Unfortunately, this afternoon. So it was a joy. Keep chatting, and I will.
Thank you, sir.
Again.
Have a good Christmas, Al. All the best for New Year, and hopefully we'll see you again.
Right, take care. Thank you, sir. Speak to you soon.
Thanks, Ed.
Bye.
Ed, thanks, mate.
Brilliant.
Really
Thanks
appreciate
very much.
your time this
Really
morning. It's
enjoyed
been
it.
amazing. So, all the best.
We'll talk again soon.
Yeah, definitely. You got a lot of stories to tell there.
Yeah, definitely. All right, thank you.
Take it easy,
Take
mate.
it easy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.